want to know, what does the audience really want? Like, you have fake natties lying, and then you have people telling the truth, and either way, they're getting so much hate. Like, I get so much hate for telling the truth because people are saying, "Oh, now you're talking about drugs. Now kids are going to take drugs."
Well, they also say
and
like
it's
the
gonna
mass
be
blast is
harmful.
excessive. For example, a common criticism you get is the mass blast, and you should address this because there's a way to address it. I think
Yeah.
that's genuine. Which is the mass blast is first of all causes acute insulin resistance and will do so no matter what, and then will impede you for the next few months till you regain it or a couple of months. So it's a sudden thing that potentially over a year-long period provides less gains than something half the dose or half the frequency. Like my approach.
The other
is the
side of the
exact
argument
opposite.
is the half of that.
My approach is the exact opposite of yours, which is or not the exact opposite, to use these useful compounds like Anadrol, but to use them so infrequently. So it's once a week, then it's Turinabol, then Anavar, then whatever it is. There's something maybe even the oral. I'm accounting for toxicity. Sometimes injectable when it's Anadrol, by the way. But even the reason why it's oral is just, first of all, I'm combining the orals here just for the relevance of toxicity, but the issue is the half-life. The orals are much shorter half-life in general. So you can hit it once a week and literally once a week, but you get a different agonism of a similar receptor, the same receptor, or a different receptor, which are not all codified at all. But the main ones are glucocorticoid receptors, androgen receptors, sometimes estrogen receptors. So anyway, these receptors will be agonized differently, which automatically causes different tolerance, the same way kratom does, more than kratom does, I would say. And because like different strains of kratom do a little bit more than that. It's very effective, and nobody ever promoted this before, to my knowledge. This is something I was just thinking to try it myself. It's very effective also at lower doses. This is not for professional bodybuilders. Professional bodybuilders need different things. But you can use low dose of short-acting compounds. You can have a minimal amount at nighttime, so you refresh like you normally would. People always think of higher, flatter androgen levels across the day, the removal of circadian rhythms and androgen levels is a good thing. It might not be a good thing for health. It might not be a good thing overall for androgenic receptor sensitivity or reaction. And also, that's a potential. So you may be taking a short-acting testosterone daily instead, then it goes down at night. So those are some things to improve sensitivity. There's a lot of things that one can do. So the mass blast, the reason why I was mentioning that people criticize it, what they're thinking is it's too consistent. One of the things we learn about growth hormone and insulin specifically, like 4 weeks of insulin, you get a resistance. Normal people are like, I do it 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. Clearly, biologically, this is not desirable in any way. You would rather do it 2 days a week on important days for retaining nutrients. It could be after you exhaust the muscles a lot. It could be to get the anabolic effect on the day of muscle repair or the day after or something like that on a major day. You might even potentially want to consider reorganizing your workouts to do it less days a week and do more on those days. I mean, there's many ways to get more out of less and more out of the total amount. But what this is to get more out of less days. Mm-hmm. So fundamentally, people were like, well, this is the most contrarian thing, so this must be a commercial marketing thing. But 20 literally means this is how you can get the most out of the least days. It will be marketable, but will show the power of steroids to the audience, which is what it does, absolutely does, and people don't realize that. People like GH15 talk about this more than 15 years ago, when GH15 first mentioned that trenbolone actively changes the shape of the muscle on a daily basis at higher doses. It's true, taking 300 milligrams or 200 milligrams a day is not good for you over a week. Trust me, I've tried it. But taking 200 milligrams for 3 days is the best way to look better for three days later. And actually the best way is to also take a sleeping tranquilizer that's not too harmful. So just so you can sleep and the rest of the day you're hyperstimulated, you will have the most 3D muscle. In fact, if you take a lot of growth hormone, also for those 3 days, you'll also have so the more growth hormone for if you're taking 2, that's not ideal. If you have a photo shoot and you want to look big and not specifically ripped, you would actually you would consider taking out more than 10 units. You might take 15 units of growth hormone. That's the truth. And sometimes in the long time, this works if you have breaks. So I think Tony imagined that the mass blast could be done like once a month or something with breaks. A fast would 3-day fast would probably totally return insulin sensitivity. Mm-hmm. There are ways around it. But Tony I don't think he thinks of it as like, this is the way I'm going to get attention, or that people are all going to do this, or going to be it's called a blast.
Everybody's trying
to. Is it 10 days?
The most effective mass blast in the shortest amount of days is a total of 9 blasting days over a 12-day period. So there's 3 days rest mixed in there. So
rest from insulin and growth hormone?
Yeah.
Oh,
So they're in a total of 12
that makes
days.
sense.
Then people gain around, let's say, an average of 33 pounds.
Well, this is the other thing that people don't. So in medical literature, they actually just weigh the weight. Usually, sometimes they test for muscle or fiber content with imaging studies, but usually they test weight. So this is a common thing. But bodybuilders know that a lot of that muscle that looks like muscle and is rounder than normal muscle and is found on Liver King is actually water being put into glycogen or better glucose utilization in muscle potentially.
Mhm.
So they think, oh, this is water. You can't gain muscle that fast. It is a different kind of tissue. If you look at like Kevin Levrone when he stops working out, you can see the muscle fibers that are not full, the opposite of what growth hormone does. I mean, it does it in the long term, but the opposite of the short term effect. He has like a lot of muscle fiber, and some people that used to be muscular and are thinner now have like unusual. You'll see some lines that normally wouldn't be there, and some excess mass. It usually doesn't look good. It usually falls a little bit, and the shoulders are especially not pointed. But that's a different look than the full look, which is actually what who looks like he's been doing a mass blast is Liver King. He looks like he's been doing a mass blast and either has bad genetics for glycogen retention or is not taking any carbs.
Mm.
That's what he looks like. But yeah, so my point is, so some people saw it as this. He doesn't actually think of that distinguishment as muscle because I think the long-term one causes the other one in the end. But the point is to do it quickly. So it must be for the point of impressing someone or some photo shoot for bodybuilders quickly. That's what I would imagine. Because it's
Actually-
not ideal for long-term health.